Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is not a bad game, but this may surprise a lot of players because EA hates single-player games and this is a well-known fact. Or at least, they hated offline games to this day. Electronic Arts has gotten from hating on offline single-player games by the president himself to saying that these games are really important for them. In this video, I am going to talk about one game that changed the whole perspective of the EA leadership. First, we have to talk about EA. In today's world, EA has become a target for an infinite number of memes and taunts from the gaming environment. However, it always wasn't like this. Before we dive into the analysis of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and its influence on Electronic Arts, we have to talk about EA's history. EA was founded as an independent company that focused on creating original games for personal computers. EA's early games were innovative and diverse, covering genres such as sport, simulation, adventure, and strategy. Most of these games were very funny and pushed current game developing software and hardware to its limits. EA hasn't been much popular in this time, but surely it continued to grow in size. Slowly, EA started to produce the first significant games in the gaming industry, like the Bird's Case released in 1985, which was one of the first games that used 3D, or Skate or Die released in 1987, which was a skating game that featured multiplayer, which was an incredible feat for the time. Slowly, EA started to approach the console market, and it later became one of the biggest and most profitable game studios at the time. After some time, EA started to acquire more and more small developers and became a gaming empire. At this time, Electronic Arts are still a well-respected publisher, and they released many of their legendary games, like The Sims released in 2000, which later became one of the best-selling games in history, or Battlefield 1942, which is a first-person shooter based on World War II scenarios. Battlefield has given birth to the next very successful and popular series of Battlefield that covers numerous historical and fictional conflicts. After that, EA entered the time of controversies and backlash. The company started to implement bad gaming elements that were destroying their games. Players were very angry that EA implemented elements like loot boxes, microtransactions, and that the games were very buggy and not finished on their release. The statement about single-player games being dead was also released around this time in 2010. The next disappointment of players came with the release of Spore. It is a single-player game that allows you to be God in a universe and create a civilization of your needs. You start with a first stadium as a cell and you are building up through the food chain and evolution all the way to space. Players had problems with too simplistic gameplay and other technical issues. The game was very hyped before the release and it simply didn't meet the expectations. However, the game is still very enjoyable and many people love it. The next failure came together with the release of SimCity in 2013. This game also did not meet the expectations. It was meant to be a reboot of this popular building game, but it failed miserably. The map was very small, you had to be connected to the internet all the time, and the servers themselves were very bad. The game also lacked some features from previous games, like disasters, terrain editing, or subways. However, this wasn't the only problem, because players were also triggered by the difficulty of the game, which was too easy and forgiving, and it shows on the negative reviews. These actions damaged EA's reputation, and it showed that no one is safe in the internet space. Now we finally get to talk about the last phase of EA's evolution. Electronic Arts finally started to think more about players than money and started to listen to the community. EA now supports indie developers, is making their services better, and is improving their reputation. In 2019, EA releases the main game of this video, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. After the failure of previous Star Wars games that were an insult to the original series, players didn't expect much from EA. However, EA surprised everyone this time after they developed an actually good game. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a single-player action-adventure game developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts in 2019. It is set in the Star Wars universe 5 years after the events of Revenge of Sith and follows a young Jedi named Cal Kestis who was haunted by the Galactic Empire after the Order 66. The game received many positive reviews, and the game was also a commercial success, selling over 10 million units by 2020. EA confirmed that the game had surpassed its fiscal year sales expectation in just 2 months. The game also won several awards, including the Best Action Adventure Game at the Game Awards 2019 and the Outstanding Achievement in Animation at the DICE Awards 2020. This changed the whole perspective of EA. EA finally said that the single-player games are good and they are not dead, and actually started to produce more single-player games. This is a very good news for players because they will get to play many more, hopefully, good single-player games in the future. However, this doesn't mean that EA is abandoning their multiplayer efforts. These games are extremely popular, and it is easier for EA to include many more microtransactions in this type of games. Games like Apex Legends or Battlefield 5 are still thrilling in today's world and are an important part of Electronic Arts. In the end, I'm happy that EA was able to make a great game again and that it started to get some of the trust back from players. If EA continues in this direction and changes, I can see a bright future ahead of them. Quality single-player games are very rare these days, so I think if their games are good, it is going to find success on the market. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I make many documentaries about gaming companies, games, and people like in this video. My name is Hunter, and see you on the next one.